people with liberty and justice for all.
Nancy, thank you. Thank you. So inspiration is Ann Marsh, who joined us in February of 20, classification, education, retired. She's a graduate of the University of the Americas. Ann.
Just a little tilt, just a little one. Christmas wasn't that long ago. I mean, some of us just got our decorations finally put back in storage. And during the Christmas season, Winter Haven always comes to mind with all of the lights and so forth that can once again have the festival this year. So I looked up some history of Winter Haven, and in December 28th of 2005, that neighborhood was accepted into the National Register of Historic Places, becoming the 21st Historic District in Tucson. And there are 265 residences and 3 well sites. Who knew? They met 2 of the criteria that are necessary to become a historic area. One is, it was an example of the nationwide trend toward post-war suburban community planning that was planned around the automobile. And it has the characteristics of a specific period or method of architecture or construction. It is a ranch house subdivision with 4 major ranch house styles. There will be a test later: traditional, modern, minimal, and transverse. Don't ask. I have no idea. There is also a great portion, a sizable body of the work, 22 of the homes that were done by architect Ann Jackson Rysdale, who was the only registered practicing female attorney in Arizona during her early career. She practiced from 49 until the 60s and worked under a firm some of you may recognize, Henry Jastad and Arthur Brown. The neighborhood is distinctive because of its park-like curved streets, and part of that, not only for the automobile, was because of drainage. It has non-native landscaping. And the layout was conceived partially also because El Encanto and Colonia Solana had some curved streets. The festival, which is the thing that we are most familiar with, the festival dates back to 1949. A man named C.B. Richards was inspired after he visited a similar display in Beverly Hills in the 1930s. And he said, why not do that here? He bought out Aleppo pine trees from Guy Montan's nursery when Guy Montan went out of business. He got the first lights and donated them to Winter Haven. And when he planted all the trees, he made sure there was electrical hookup at the base of each tree. And we have a Rotarian from this club who is one of the notable residents. So Katie Dusenberry was one of the residents, the noted residents. There was also George Barr, who helped the city of Catalina in its founding, Warren Woodson, who was the head University of Arizona football coach for a while. So interesting area. And I hope that we don't have to stop going to the Winter Haven Festival anymore because of this blankety blank blank disease. Yeah.
And thank you. That was really timely, given our focus this year with our centennial, what have you. Please be seated. So I always get a little bit discombobulated when we do a buffet. I never know when to start. I never know when not to start. So Doreena's always on me about, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I know the buffet makes things a little bit goofy for us in the way it is, but I also know how much everybody enjoys the buffet. So I hope you're enjoying it today. So introduction of guests and visitors. Chris Dodge. Chris joined us in February of 20. Classification entertainment, music. He owns Chris Dodge Entertainment. He's a graduate of the University of Americas, and he is one heck of a sergeant at arms. Chris?
Good to see you all. So we have a few guests here. So guest of Marianne Freitas, say hello to Alan Schroep. Where are you, Alan? Hi, Alan. And guest of Don Rollings. We have two guests of Don Rollings. Nan Rollings. Hi, Nan. And Darshan Akai. Oh, Darshan's not sitting there. She didn't know. But she's Abbey's daughter. Say hi to Abbey's daughter. And guest of Luda Eisenman, Richard Bratt. Where are you, Richard? Hi, Richard. Welcome. Guest of Monty Clausen, Joni Clausen. Hi, Joni. Welcome. And guest of Alan Rogers, Paterno Cruz. Welcome, Paterno. Man, that table over there is full of a whole bunch of guests. And Darshan just showed up. Say hi to Darshan. Hi, Darshan. There she is. She's very lovely. I met her earlier. She's very nice. You should talk to her. And guest of Lee Olitsky. Say hello to Clarissa Mehta. Hi, Clarissa. And that's all I got. Back to you, Mark.
Chris, thank you. So today's, I think, a really fun day. You know, we've had a couple of folks that made presentation to us recently that celebrate their 100th anniversary. Tucson Association of Realtors. We got to hear from our friends at Gus Rosenfeld. We heard from Hotel Congress. We've just had a chance to have a whole bunch of folks in. I got to tell you, I'm really excited to see our friends at El Charo come and speak with us today. They have been, if you look at the word Tucson Treasure, there's probably a picture of Carlotta there. And Ray as well. Maybe you have forgotten that Carlotta worked diligently for many years with me on the Rio Nuevo board and was quite impactful before Ray told her she had to step down and get back to business. So totally, completely understand that. So let's direct our attention, if we might, to the video where we're going to hear a little presentation, a little introduction that's done by Matt Russell and our buddy Rick Rose at Film Creations. Switcher, Steam, can you roll that video?
Established in 1922, El Charo Cafe has become one of America's dining icons. It's the nation's oldest Mexican restaurant that has been continually run by the same family. Featuring traditional Sonoran-style food, along with uniquely Tucson creations, El Charo Cafe has been described by Gourmet Magazine as a taste explosion. In fact, El Charo's legendary Monica Flynn is world famous as the inventor of the chimichanga. It came about by accident. Monica accidentally dropped a burro into the frying pan she was using to brown some beef, and when the hot oil splashed up, she was about to curse out loud in Spanish, using a common Spanish cuss word starting with CH. But because she was surrounded by her young nieces and nephews, she blurted out chimichanga and accidentally created a dish now enjoyed all around the world. El Charo's menu is proof that it's possible to maintain old world quality while using recipes that are lower in trans fat and even gluten-free. With a large array of award-winning handcrafted menu items and beverages, El Charo Cafe has written a full chapter in Tucson's culinary history. Today's program is about the long and varied history of El Charo and the Flores family. So let's have a warm north of the border welcome for Ray and Carlota Flores.
By the way, the chimichangas that were in the buffet line, along with the sauce, is provided by El Charo. It's always fun to have them call and say, "Can we bring some chimichangas and borrow the fryer at the TCC?" How cool is it that everybody worked together on this? Ray, Carlotta, it's all yours.
Good afternoon. I'm going to take my mask off and lower this a tiny bit. There are so many familiar faces out there, and my family is definitely very happy and very proud to be in Tucson, Arizona. There's no doubt that we've all gone through an awful lot, but we're in it together, and we will continue to go the extra mile to make sure that we are part of Tucson, because Tucson is part of you as it is part of us, and El Charo is very, very much a part of that. this is a good story, and like all stories, everything starts with once upon a time. And once upon a time, there was a Frenchman who was commissioned by Bishop Salpointe to come to Tucson to do a very ornate rose window for the first Catholic cathedral that would be here. Mind you, not Phoenix, Tucson. So he came to Tucson, and in that era of time, he met my great-grandmother, whose name was Carlota Brunet Flynn. But she was not a Flynn then. It was shortly thereafter that they married. And between them, they had 8 children, and 4 girls and 4 boys. Sorry, gentlemen, all the women were extremely enterprising. All the men were a little typical lazy sometimes, but they all knew how to cook. And they cooked not only Mexican Sonora food, they had the French influence of my great-grandmother and of my great-grandfather, because she too was French. She had been born in Mexico when Maximilian was there, and so his wife was named Carlota, and my great-grandparents named me Carlota after, or my parents did after my great-grandmother. That's the once upon a time. We come to Tucson, we're in Tucson, and the family is here, and it's slowly growing, as is the work that they did along with the Ronstadt family, who had building and contractors, other families who were actually building the city. And many of the rock walls that you see around Tucson, including Old Main, including the stables right back here at the Flynn Building, or the El Charo, where was the family home. You will Immaculate Heart. You will see the touch of the Centennial rock that was taken from A Mountain to do this work. When I was little, there was a ranch that we lived on near A Mountain for a while, and we could see the amount of work that it would take then to bring this stone into the city to do the work. We are part of Tucson. However, I told you the women could cook. My aunt had been married and was left kind of stranded by her husband. She had one skill: she could cook. So she rented a spot on 4th Avenue, and she started a small restaurant with a young woman. And in those days, she would go, she didn't have any money. And for a long time, she didn't have any money. And probably not until Raymond was born did we have any money at all, because it was short-term credit. So she would take their order, and she'd run out to the Chinese grocery store, which was right on the corner, because we had so many Chinese grocery stores in Tucson. Entrepreneurship, small stores that took care of their families. And she would go in there, and they'd let her charge her groceries, and she'd go back and she'd make whatever it is that they ordered, serve them, and at the end of the day, take her money and go pay the Chinese grocer. That got very tiring, very difficult. So she went and borrowed money from a family member. She went ahead and was in another location and opened up El Charo in 1927, the second location from the first, which was in 1922, right here on Broadway, which now is a different street completely. She went through many trials and tribulations, but in those days she was able to live in her restaurant, and she did. And the word tia abuela is like a grandmother that's an aunt, and that's the way we were raised with her. So I'm 75 years old, but I'm 75 years old of having been part of this wonderful culinary experience in my life. My children, who are in their 50s, actually have been part of that story as well for the last 50 years, because I too raised them in our business and had areas where they could go, and we did Boy Scout meetings and Girl Scout meetings, and we did Spanish classes, and we did art classes, all in El Charo. So it has, not only to me, but to them, a lot of heartstrings. Now, like all good stories, that's a story. Along, though, those veins, we had to grow or stay stagnant. And it wasn't until my oldest son finished school at the university, left for a while, and came back, that they decided that we needed to do more with what we had. And so I'm going to turn the program over to him, because when he did that, I was able to go out and do things that I had always wanted to do. Because cooking is it's difficult. It is fun, but I have to be ready to serve you, just the way they were ready to serve you. And I thought the lunch looked really nice today. I hope it was as good as it looked. And people don't realize that that work is work that must be done ahead of the time of all of you sitting down. And that goes on and on and on. So in order to do that, we came together, and now I'd like to introduce you to the young man who truly has taken El Charo and grown it, always giving credit to El Charo as I knew it and know it now. It's sometimes hard for me to step back and see the growth that's happening because it's not perhaps as I would like it to be, but I have learned to cope, to understand, and to change. And I hope all the older people in the audience understand that, because it's one of the hardest things to do, is to relearn what is happening in this world today. Thank you, and I hope again that you have a happy new year and that all your dreams, whether they're small or big, come true. Raymond?
That should have, well, Matt is a friend, and Matt does all these great stuff with us, but that should have said Carlota and Ray Flores, because she's first for sure. I got blessed to tell a story that two women really wrote. Monica wrote this amazing story in the 20s, which must have been very difficult. And Carlota's been able to keep, her story's been there as well, and I've just been lucky enough to tell it. So we've told it around the country now, and we've grown quite a bit. I think it's interesting. I did some research. I was just kind of looking at your website today, and the word neighbor on your website, 1.4 million members on your website, 110 years old. We're a little younger than you. Those numbers mean something because it's about the people that are involved in your organization as well as ours. And these friendships like we have here and a lot of the faces in the room, we talk about community like it's no big deal. It's actually everything. It's the very reason why we're still here. And like I said, I didn't build that community. I just kept telling that story. And then we kept telling the story to other people, all the way to where we have a store in Baltimore Airport. We have a store in Kentucky Airport. We've had stores in Las Vegas. We estimated that we serve well over 1 million people a year now in all of our brands. We've had, probably before COVID, at least in Tucson, well over 500 employees at one time. And then COVID knocked it down to 50. And we came back. And we didn't close when there were opportunities to get out with the money, which some people did. That's just not the Charo way. And it's definitely not the Tucson way, in our opinion, because we are part of Tucson. So we put a timeline together just to kind of walk you through here. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I think what I would love to tell all of you is thank you. Because I know so many of you have supported our businesses, and maybe some of you have fallen out of favor, or a server didn't do the job and you didn't like coming back or whatever. Well, then I'll also say I apologize for that. And I'd welcome you back in a heartbeat. And I would give you my cell phone number just as she would, because that's what it is. It's about community. You told a story about Winter Haven, and I think this is a funny fact that you had brought up Winter Haven. We have a store that we opened during the pandemic called Barrio Charo. We did it with Don Guerra, the famous baker here in town that's won all kinds of awards. And Don and our family's commitment to quality lined up enough that he felt good to partner with us. It was a tough thing to do because we leased it in February right before COVID broke in 2020, so we knew we were going to have a hard time finishing it, but we got it done and we opened. And when we were doing it, barrio, as we know, means neighbor. We were in this barrio with a lot of people, and we got removed forcefully, unfortunately, by the city to build this, really, during urban renewal. So I guess we won because we came back. But Don Guerra says, I want to partner with you, and let's do a deal. So we did this little restaurant, and I'm like, okay, well, it's your barrio, and we're Charo. We'll put them together and call it Barrio Charo. That seemed simple enough. And then I said, well, let's, I always like to decorate and do our stores. I do a lot of that vision kind of mapping, and I always like to tell a story with our brand. So, well, let's find something about the barrios of Tucson. There's all these great stories about these different barrios. And I found this map, and we enlarged the map and we put it up on the wall, and it's all the neighborhood associations registered in the city of Tucson. Okay? And if you know a story about Winter Haven, they're not recognized as a neighborhood association because they have their own water. So the neighborhood president of Winter Haven comes in to eat the other day at Barrio Charo, and we're sitting there, and she's like, I'd love for you guys to do our event, but can you get me up on the map? And I'm like, I don't even know why you're not on the map. And she says, well, I don't either. So then she calls me, and she talked to somebody who is more senior in the neighborhood and says, yeah, we've never been a part of it because we do our own water. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to edit that, and I'm going to write in Winter Haven, and I'm going to put a big star on there, and I'll name a sandwich after Winter Haven the next time we do our menu. But that, I think it's a very cool thing to be part of Tucson's history, and there's many that have come before us, and there's many that will come after us, and I know 100 means a lot. As I told Mark when we sat down, no one cares if you're 101, so we better make the most of it. Thank all the people that got us here are the people that worked with us, all our employees. These hardworking folks, like the folks that are doing the stuff right now before us that have gone on. We've had servers who have well eclipsed wealth that you could never imagine. Worked for us throughout college, guys who started things like MySpace and were partners in Facebook and own more real estate in California than can shake a stick at. And they've all worked, a lot of people worked with us and come in and out of our doors, and we consider them family as well. We hope they'll leave us in their will. But, thank you again, and if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Take the salsa home, enjoy it. I actually like it on pizza. So if you find a good pizza, which we're actually working on, it's my segue into our next project, which will be on this list pretty soon. We're building a project called the Monica. It is a Rio Nuevo project endorsed and supported with Born Partners that built the Hexagon building for Hexagon Mining that's in town. Right over here on Congress, there will be a concept called the Monica, rightfully named after her. We open in about 6 weeks. To Rio Nuevo, we open next week, Mark. But you're so it's okay. We can say that. So the Monica will be open here shortly, and it'll be an homage to her and her history of culinary. It's not Mexican necessarily, because she wasn't. She was a French woman born in Tucson, Arizona. She married into the Mexican culture and adopted that, as well a lot of us have. And the food's going to represent a lot of families from around town. And so if you all have a story or you have something that's dear in your heart, tell Charo. We also have a website going around right now that's called charo100.com. We're actually publishing a cocktail book that will be compiled of stories and images from our friends and family. That should come out here towards the end of the year. But if you have one to share, it's a website. You can upload your photos. If you've been an anniversary or birthday or a favorite story about your time with El Charo, could be meeting somebody, your first date, an anniversary, etc. So charo100.com if you can. Thank you very much. Is that good enough, Mark?
Yeah, let's do a little Q&A.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I love Charo Vida.
Thank you.
So I keep that going. Do you have a museum or a room where you display all of the calendars that you have put out over the years?
So we do have a lot of stuff in digital format because of the media that we have, and throughout the restaurants, like if you go to the airport, you'll see them in different formats. We will digitally reproduce them. And in downtown, in the gift shop building that used to be right next to it, which were stables to that building in the 1800s, we put pictures up in that room with little numbers that denote what they are, and that references it. Calendars are funny. It's a big thing that we do. They've gone up a lot in money, and they're very protective about their license, and the artwork that's in those Mexican calendars are all licensed by a lot of them by the Elguera family. And so we have to be careful about what we reproduce. The funny calendar story right now is that every year we go and make them, and there was one year where we did it and had my mom, it sounds like it's all been roses. They actually used to force us into these little Charo mariachi outfits and make us ride in the rodeo parade. I haven't gotten her back yet for that. But there's these pictures of her, of my brother and I in these little Charo outfits, and then my dad who looked like Freddie Fender with this big mustache. And we would have to ride in these rodeo parades, and I'm sure it was just freezing ass cold out there, but we were covered in 40 layers of Mexican polyester. So we were okay, but my sister, who was born 5 years later, didn't have to do that gig, but there's this picture of her where they dressed her up again in kind of the folklorico kind of dress. and took a photo of her, and then that became another part of our story. Well, when they reproduced this year's calendar, my artist, our graphic designer in-house, put all these pictures together, and our picture made the bottom of the image. My sister's didn't. For some reason, we just glitched it, and so now I think she's disowned us, or she doesn't get anything, I guess, now. She didn't make the calendar, so. Yeah, so I guess we're going to have to sticker her on there somehow, but. Yes, sir.
People
Yeah, you're on.
Yep.
people don't realize that the restaurant business, probably the restaurant industry, has the highest amounts of failures of any other industry. And it's never come more to the forefront than what we've been through the last couple of years with the pandemic. And also the margins that you have in the restaurant industry are some of the smallest of any industries. My question is kind of twofold. What do you attribute your longevity and what has caused El Charo to stay in business for all these decades, for 100 years plus? And what is the number one reason or number two or three reasons why restaurants fail? It seems like everybody in the world thinks that they can open a restaurant or a bar and they know how to do it, and all I have to do is throw some ice in some glasses and that's all it takes. But we know that's not the case. So what kept you in business all this time, and what causes other restaurants not to?
Well, I think you answered part of it, is that everybody, because they think they can cook, they think that somebody wants to buy what they're cooking, right? And everybody has their mom's favorite or their aunt's favorite something or their favorite something, and they think they can take that to market. I can't tell you how many times I've told people that have come up to me and said, I want to get my barbecue sauce in a grocery store. I'm like, no, you don't. Because it's extremely expensive and you're often just fraught with pitfalls that will cost you everything you thought you had. And so I get that a lot. I've had a lot of restaurant people ask me about those very issues. The pandemic was, this huge hiccup in the system of everything. It showed everybody's thinness, right? It showed where we were thin in every environment, didn't matter what. Our Monica project was held up because of one massive circuit breaker and just had to redo the whole thing. I mean, it was like stop everything, re-engineer the entire electrical system for this one circuit breaker that didn't come in. So in a way, restaurants are like that. They're thin because people often have this vision, this dream, and some of them have made it. That's grit and hard work. My tia Monica was grit and hard work. I'm more of a realist. I've been in a lot of different industries and had other different businesses. And I come from more of a marketing background. But I can say that it is a lot about, the system is the solution. And unfortunately for restaurants, you don't know that until you've been running a while on what the system should be. So you've really got to have more bandwidth going in than when you're coming out. Richard and I share a good friend with Sam Fox, and I've sat with Sam, several times, and we've talked about the restaurant industry. I will say this one story, and I think you guys will laugh about this one. But there's an 80-20 rule to everything, and there's 80% of our stuff works, 20% doesn't. We've closed restaurants too that didn't work, or markets pivot, things shift. Sam was funny because I was in the concert and event business. How I got our brand into Las Vegas is I used to do a lot of stuff in Vegas. I did stuff at MGM Systems and whatnot, and I actually opened and started ABBA. I ran ABBA for the tribe, and my marketing company did all their marketing for a long time. And it's funny because I came back and I said, look, I'm going to get back in the restaurant business, Sam. I called him up, and I'm kind of getting out of that. I was going through divorce, and I wanted to get back to family. And he's like, move your company to Phoenix. He might hate me saying that, but he's out anyway now. So he says, you're just going to have a better time of growing there. And I'm like, nope. Because, this is where our heart is. And I've been asked that question subsequently many times. And I'm like, I can grow from here. And I talk to people like Cody Ritchie who's done that, and other folks who've led from outside of Tucson. And I think, part of the problem with some of the restaurant people that have started on their own, they just didn't ask questions the right way. I went to something during COVID where Mark Kelly was speaking. And I'm not making political preface, I just happened to be invited. And the people that were asking questions were asking him things like, where do we get funding from? I'm like, you don't ask that guy. Maybe asking me. I mean, ask your peers. And that's what they were looking for, like resources for capital. And like, he doesn't know anything. Then why are you asking? I mean, why don't you, so this kind of thing, this community, what you're doing here, this kind of networking, I mean, we need to do this with younger people. But they're often, I already know everything. And so that's hard, right? Because it's human nature. But I think that's what the restaurant industry is. I often say it's kind of like a lot of pirates. They're very much like emboldened people who just go and do it, and then it's like, we'll figure it out. And sometimes, unfortunately, as many people do, it's hard to make it last. Well, they're a massive employer in this country. They employ a ton of people, but a lot of them don't listen. And they need to, because the landscape is changing. When a Raising Cane's can come into Tucson and just open a store and get a line of people at the door in 2 minutes. They don't have to come and donate to the local community. They don't have to get involved with Boys and Girls Club. They don't have to sponsor a Little League. They pop up in a store. They get great grand lease. They've got grade A credit, and guys like real estate, hey, we want them on our corner lot, and they want to put them there because they got all the credit in the world, and they bank them, and they put them on the kitchen. It's so hard to beat that. It's so hard to compete for that because they've got it all already coming in, and everybody flocks to them because they've got everybody on their cell phone already. They've got they understand Google Analytics better than everybody in this room combined, and they figured out how to go right where they need to go, get all the people that go there, and you'll drive by there 10 o'clock at night. Why is there still a line there? I've never even eaten there. Don't. You're going to save your arteries. Go to Charo Vita. Go to Charo Vita, because it's better for your heart. So, I don't know. I hope I helped answer that. Yeah.
Hi, Ray.
Hey, I know you.
I know you.
Here's a gal that deserves this is a warrior for Tucson. I mean, Kim Adair from the Arizona Bolt, I mean.
You're so sweet.
Talk about somebody who's got their punches lately. You take them. You're good.
I take them. I stand right back up,
Yeah.
just like you. And I don't have a question, more like a commentary, which is I can't think of another company in Southern Arizona that is as generous with its time, money, and food than yours, El Charo. And I think that that's one area that you didn't even touch or you totally glossed over. But one of the reasons your company is so successful is how it invests its generosity into this community. And I think we can all say we've all been recipients of that generosity. And I know you would never give yourself that, pat on the shoulders or back, but I would like to. And I'd like you to also share with this group how Charo stepped up and supported our community during this, the beginning and middle stages of the pandemic, because I don't think many people know about what you did to help save people and help give back to this community. So first of all, I'd like all of us to thank you for that, because I know personally I've been a recipient of that generosity, and I know we all have. So thank you for that and supporting our community.
Well, and that's something, again, that I know that our family's business and the people that work with us, that a lot of them are like our extended family, have learned from Carlota. She always gave, and she gave equal to what she took or more. And so we tried to keep that going as much as possible. And when you get known for that, like this gentleman does, you just get asked a lot, right? I mean, you have to start to say, okay, wait, because you can't burn yourself out. And I know a lot of us have in this room. But then you grow your team and you teach them that same thing, and then things start to really happen that you can see where the difference was made. One of the projects that we recently got involved with, and this is a really cool announcement, and it actually tied into the pandemic question. When right before, about a year before the pandemic, we got introduced to the U of A Community School Garden Program. How many are you all familiar with the U of A Community School Garden Program? If you have grandchildren or kids, you know that in TUSD, you know that there's these school gardens, and that in other communities, they become very important as to a child's education. Well, it made sense that a restaurant person who uses a lot of farm stuff would do something with school gardens, so we started looking into it, and we met some folks at the U of A, and Manzo School was one of the projects that they first started with, and they, schools are graded just like we were, I barely made it through, but schools were graded, A through F, and if a school's an F, they close it down, and so there's a lot of schools that were closed down because they were an F, or they're an F and they let them go and they just flounder, and nobody's better for that. Well, Manzo School was slotted to close. They're over on the west side, and this behavioral scientist, behavioral doctor, Moses Thompson, who really was there counseling really at-risk children whose parents were either imprisoned or they were homeless or other, and he used gardening. He said, well, we're going to teach you how to plant something and give them something else to think about than their parent might be behind bars or something else. And he realized that kids would now start coming into school the next day instead of missing it because they wanted to see what was growing in their garden. And he started doing this more and more, and then the U of A picked up on it, became part of agriculture, became part of behavioral science, and next thing you know, they're supporting and they're working out a curriculum, and some of you may know more of the details, but the bottom line is that it became a program. And now it's in all the TUSD schools, and it became a thing, and yet at the same time, like anything, this stuff requires funding. So reaching out to us, we started working with them and donating our time, and then a couple years ago, we were in our place in Laguna, and it was a summer vacation, and I get a phone call from them, and they had been vandalized. And somebody had gone in and destroyed the greenhouse at Manzo and just ruined it. And of course, the kids are going to come back to school and their greenhouse has been destroyed. So we rally. TP got involved. Shamrock Foods got involved. All the good partners that we know in this town, Mr. Click, everybody I could call on a quick thing, and we raised a bunch of money and put the greenhouse back together. In that meeting, though, they introduced me to some folks, and we started working more with them and donating. Like I did some consulting for a group that had pallets of sanitizer, and we gave a bunch of sanitizer out to the kids, and masks and all this stuff. And then they called me and said, "Hey, there's a guy who wants to talk to you. He saw that you're doing this thing during the pandemic. We did this thing where we were calling it Tamales for Heroes, and we were raising money and taking tamales out to first responders and hospitalists." And he called me up. He says, "Hey, Ray, I'm in love with what you're doing, and I'm going to give you $10,000. I want you to go put tamales in every firehouse and every first responder." I'm like, "Okay, done." And we did it. That same gentleman just donated $1 million to the U of A Community School Garden Program. So it does connect, and we're just happy to be a connector in this community. So thank you again, everybody.
So you can see how easy it is to be friends with these maniacs. Carla and I have been friends for over 30 years, and I'll tell you the thing, I think Kim talked about it really well. I think to me, Charles is just not known for great Mexican food. They're known for an inability to say no. I've asked them for all kinds of stuff, and I've never, ever had them say no. Not them to benefit me, but things like Boys and Girls Clubs and things in the community, they're really interested in that, and great supporters. So here's kind of cool. We've got our Make Way for Books library where we put the book in, and Carlotta have signed this book today. Check out the title. Let's talk about how great you are. Won't that be fun? Thank you guys for that. So we got a couple of birthdays today, and we're going to start off with a New Year's Eve tax deduction, Mr. David Lovett. He joined our club in 2005. How did that happen? Classification, insurance, and risk management, property casualty. He's retired, DM Lovett Insurance. Can you believe this? He's a U of A grad. So those 4 questions we ask you. Why'd you, what do we not know about you? So David swam with Tiger Sharks. He is in the South Point Football Hall of Fame. He's an 8th degree black belt. Him and Candy are going to get after it here after a while. He dances ballet, and he has done the rim to rim to rim. That's 48 miles, nonstop. He joined Rotary originally in 1972, and then again in 1990, and he helped create the Kachina Rotary Club. And then in 2002, at my request, 2005, he joined this club again. Why does he stay? Because of the friends he's made in our mission. What's his plans for the future? Stay engaged. David.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Carlita and Ray for coming today. And again, thank you for all your community donations, particularly when Carlita and I got involved. We were involved in the Boys and Girls Club, and that's where I met you. And by the way, I think this salsa is the best in Tucson, and it's my favorite. So thank you for that. So I just want to mention, as I have in the past, this opportunity reminds me of my grandfather, who was a Rotarian in the 30s, and Charlotte knows the exact date, but sometime in the 30s he became a member, one of the early members, and my father, who was president of this club in 1950, and I just like to remember those two gentlemen who were very great Rotarians, and hopefully if I can just follow somewhat in their footsteps, that would be terrific, because they were shining stars in this club, and Mark and I have the unique situation of he sponsored me in this club and brought me back to the fold after I'd been out for many years. I initially was a member of this club in the 70s, as he mentioned, and then I was successful in getting him back into the club. It was a struggle, but we finally did it, and when he was out for a brief period of time. So anyway, and I already provided a check to Dorena for the Rotary Foundation. So thank you, Mark.
David is, he might not admit it, but David is one of my absolute best friends. And when my wife asks me, tell me about David, I always say, he's a fine fellow. Candy Vactor is up next. She was born January 12th, sounds like today. She joined our club in January of 2012. A lot of 12s here. She's an honorary member of our club, and she's active with the Tucson Classics Car Show. So what don't you know? Check this out. Her and David are going to get after it in a little bit. She's a national champion black belt and also a judge. She's a scuba instructor as well. She has dove down to 200 feet. I think she's lost her mind swimming with sharks. She joined because Joni Condit asked her. She stays because she's honored and humbled to be an honorary member and to be impactful of the car show, and because of the friendships she's made. And guess what her plans are to make it better? She's going to stay involved in the Tucson Classics Car Show. Candy.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mark. I think maybe you guys are a little taller than I am. Is that good? I congratulate the Rotary Club of Tucson and El Charo for being 100 years old, surviving and thriving for that long. I mean, can you imagine, or just think about the things that have changed in 100 years and those that have not. So as of today, I, like Carlota, are 3/4 through that 100 years. Okay, and I am actually really looking forward to excitement and learning opportunities in my future, and a little bit of RV trips too. Thank you, past president and immediate past car show chair, Joni Condit, and your board, for asking me to be an honorary member 10 years ago, which took me out of Rotary Ann status. Many of you don't know what that is. Ask an older member. It has been such an honor. Thank you to my husband, Drew Vactor, of 52.5 years, 36 of which have been as a member of this club, for taking me to makeup at Rotary clubs all over the world, which allowed me to see the greater good with our own eyes. Most importantly, I thank him for his love, his belief in me, his support, and his patience, especially when I just had to get that last car on the field instead of help him with dinner. And lastly, you love that word, I know, to all my Rotarian friends, past, present, and future, who allow me to hone my skills in the things I've learned at U of A and in life, to make a difference in this community and the world, while I learn from you every day. I am honored to be in this remarkable club with you. Thank you. And I gave you a check.
You bet you did. Thank you, Candy. Next up is Pat Patton. Pat was born on the 18th of January. He joined our club in May of 2018. He was previously a member from 2004 to 2010. His classification is Economic Development, retired. He's a graduate of Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and Thunderbird. I knew you'd like that, Ron. So a couple things, what do we not know about him? So his hobby, he's a student of language, which I think is very interesting, although he says that Chinese and Japanese are the toughest. He joined our club out of admiration for Guard Pierce. Many of us remember Guard well, who helps, and he loved the fact that he was involved in helping spearhead Project Amanecer. He stays because he loves the projects that we do. International is really what gets him really excited, and also because of the fantastic friends he's made. His plan in the future is to work on more international projects and fellowship opportunities and help me with Switcher Studio. Pat Patton.
Thank you, Mark. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Mark just got inducted into the Woodrow Wilson High School Hall of Fame, Dallas, Texas. Congratulations on that. I'd like to start out by thanking my sponsor, Pat Lennon. I love this guy. He is probably, of all the people I've known, the most friendly, outgoing person I've ever met. And when he meets you, he's got a bone-crushing handshake. I'm still recovering from 2004, the first time I met him. In fact, we both came in the same year. And nobody in the Rotary Club could remember us. They just called us Big Pat and Little Pat. And you know, one time I gave the pledge in the song, and the Tucson thanked Pat Lennon. I'm not lying. This guy takes credit for everything. But what's so funny, I got to thinking when we were doing this little write-up that Mark asked us to do about something that Bob Schaff had asked. What was your most memorable Rotary moment in the high profile? And I got to thinking about that, and I thought, all of the moments I've had that were really memorable have been with Pat Lennon. The hiking club, Pat and Darlene. I nearly broke Darlene's leg one time pulling her out from under a stump. we had a lot of fun doing that. The trips to Mexico. We used to have an annual trip to San Carlos every year. And in 2004, my old mentor, Guard Pierce, said, you know, we haven't had a trip to Mexico for 2 years. And I thought, why don't we do it again? So Pat and I got 3 vans, and we drove groups of Rotarians down there and got it started again. Now, it's not there now, but we can do it again. There's no reason why we can't. But the ultimate thing that I can remember about Rotary, my favorite moment, was we were trying to start a wheelchair factory in Mexico. And I needed to get a $100 check from the Rotary Club down in Nogales. And they would beat around the bush. They wouldn't send it to us, whatever. So I told them, look, we'll come down to La Roca restaurant in Nogales, and I will take you to lunch, but I want a $100 check. So we got down there. The Mexican guys were a little bit late, you know how it is. Anyway, Pat and I are talking. In walks the president. A little while later, a couple more guys come in. Then their wives come in. And I spent $400 to get a $100 check, but we got it. And true to Rotary spirit, I couldn't finish the job because I lost my job at U of A and I had to move to El Paso for 8 years. But Lubinsky came in and finished it up. Not only did he get the Rotary grant through, but he got that factory running. And he made it work. And they're still going, and they have added a hearing clinic, and they've added a prosthetics factory to help people who don't have arms and legs. So anyway, thank you very much, Pat. Big Pat.
I love hearing some of those old stories. So we've got an introduction of a new member. Jerry Alloa is going to come up and do that. Joined in February of 2000, classification finance, livestock investments, retired. Graduate, a lot of people graduating from a number of colleges. Check this out. Harvard and Cambridge. Anyway, he will be introducing Anita Scales. Jerry?
Good afternoon, everybody. It gives me great pleasure to introduce a lady to you who, when I said, would you like to come to Rotary with me 12 weeks ago, she said, sure. After 4 weeks, she said, I'd like to join. I want to present to you Anita Scales. Anita has history in this town, just like El Charo, which I love. She is the great-granddaughter of Jacob Mansfeld, one of the founders of the University of Arizona. She grew up in England and Connecticut and has also lived in Spain. She speaks very fluent Spanish. She is a graduate of Bryn Mawr College and lived in Greenwich, Connecticut for a number of years before moving to Tucson 25 years ago to care for her parents. She has had a variety of employments, the longest of which was 10 years for the World Wrestling Federation. You don't want to fool with this woman. From its infancy in Greenwich to its big success based in Stamford, Connecticut. With the company's growth and its federal drug trial along the way, life was never dull. Following the trial, Anita went to NYU for a paralegal certificate. She needed to help her dad, who was an English citizen, die with the IRS. She has a daughter who is a busy singer in Manhattan for Trinity Wall Street, Voices of Ascension, and Lincoln Center. She was on the board of the Friends of the Library when Eleanor, my wife, was the president. And that's when I got to know her 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. Just say hello.
I hope I can not, ask you not to ask me too much about the World Wrestling Federation. That I took on a dare. There was a long ad in the local paper, and my stepchildren were visiting. And I read this ad, which was endless. It went from the top, I guess about 1.5 inches wide, all the way to the bottom of the paper. And most want ads aren't quite that long. And that was kind of provocative in a way. So I went and did an interview, and and then we had Hulk Hogan and Freddie Blassie and all these guys, and it was endless hysteria, 24/7. And I thought, I'd never had a job that was quite so intense. Take work home. Phone calls from road agents at 3 o'clock in the morning. Anita, I'm in Chicago. I don't know how to, these guys that want the whatever. It's just, it kind of makes you feel a little schizophrenic after a while. Because you have your more, the personality you'd rather have your neighbors know. And then you're, the person who's on speed dial with people with criminal records, and the cops are calling from Louisiana, that kind of thing. And Anita, he wants $500 or I go to jail, and put him on. So I'm going to try and let that kind of go, and but every now and then it comes out. I'm sorry, but it just does. Okay, thank you.
Need to hang on just a second. Need to hang on just a second. There's your bag of goodies.
Oh my, this is
And you gotta look over here.
Thank you.
By the way, if you see Carlotta and Ray get up and leave a little bit early, they have to dash to an event. So if they go, we won't give you any grief. Trust me. So we actually have a twofer coming up. Charlotte Harris is coming up with a banner exchange. She joined us in November of 2000, classification education, administrative secondary, University of Arizona. She was our club president in 2008-9. She's here for a banner exchange and also to make a Paul Harris Fellow presentation to somebody sitting out here in the front somewhere. Charlotte.
Okay, thank you. At the pre-ride into polio dinner, we used our club centerpieces that we use each week at our meetings, the wooden saguaro with various Rotary Club banners. I sat next to the president of the Rotary Club of Castle Rock in Colorado as she was writing, and she admired the centerpieces, and I explained they were from our club. She shared that at her club they have notebooks in the center of their tables with cellophane holders for each of the clubs that they enjoy looking at their meetings. We decided to exchange our club banners, so I sent her one of our banners, and she sent one of theirs along with a thank you note signed by their members. So I present to you, President Mark, the Rotary Club banner from Castle Rock. And, whoops, and not my mask.
I don't get the mask? Oh,
No,
come on.
you don't get
I don't
the
get
mask.
to wear your mask after
No, and the thank you note. You can see it up on the screen.
you? Very cool.
The Paul Harris Fellowship was established in 1957 to honor Paul Harris, who founded Rotary with 3 business associates in 1905. The fellowship was established to express appreciation for contributions to the programs of the Rotary Foundation that save and invigorate the lives of people around the world. Chuck, will you please come stand in front of the podium? The family of fellow Rotarian Chuck Sawyer gathered from various parts of the United States where they shared wonderful times in Tubac over the holidays. At that gathering, Chuck presented Paul Harris Fellows to his 3 children. On the screen, you can see a photo of the Sawyer family. Kathy, Chuck's wife, and the mother of their children, and a Paul Harris Fellow herself, did the honors of putting the new pins on the family members. Bennett, Kristen, and Hannah were selected to receive this recognition because their father believes that their lives exemplify the humanitarian and education objectives of the Rotary Foundation, demonstrating in each of their lives a commitment to helping persons in need. All 3 Sawyer children are receiving their Paul Harris Fellow. All are graduates of the Gregory School. Kristen, age 31, recently got engaged to Frank with a wedding planned this year. A graduate of the University of North Carolina, Kristen lives in Tucson and is a teacher at Ironwood Tree Experience, a nonprofit organization providing young people with active, fun, and educational experiences that take place in diverse natural destinations. Bennett, age 30, is a graduate of the University of Virginia and lives in Denver and works for Janus Funds, one of the first mutual funds. He's marrying Courtney in October at Hacienda del Sol. Courtney earned her medical degree at the University of Arizona and is in her 2nd year of residency in pediatrics. Hannah just had a birthday on December 28th and is now 26. She's a graduate of the University of San Francisco and lives in Walnut Creek, California, where she is an environmental engineer. When the family gathered over the holidays, together they celebrated Hannah's birthday. Chuck, our fellow Rotarian and a past president of our club, is receiving his Paul Harris Fellow +3. He's wearing his new pin. When Chuck and his wife Kathy returned to Tucson in 2004, it was like coming home as Chuck first lived on base at Davis-Monthan in the early 1960s and graduated from Catalina High School in 1976. He went on to receive a bachelor's degree from the University of Oregon and a master's degree in 1983 from Thunderbird School of International Management in Glendale. Kathy and Chuck met at Thunderbird, were married in 1984, and moved to New York City, where for over 20 years, Kathy worked for Kodak, Chuck Colgate-Palmolive. The family then moved to Chicago, where Chuck worked for R.R. Donnelly, and then on to Kansas City with Hallmark. Tired of corporate work, Chuck and Kathy chose a franchise, Cartridge World, which had just opened in the market in 2003. In 2004, they bought the rights to the Tucson metro area and started to build business-to-business and retail sales out of their full-service store at Broadway and Swan. They now focus on printer cartridges, printer sales, printer service, and repair. Chuck shares why he supports Rotary, quote, "I joined the Rotary Club of Tucson to make an impact locally, to give back, and to be involved in the local community. We really are a remarkable Rotary Club, and I am proud to say that we, as a club, are able to make an impact both locally and globally. That is one of the true parts of Rotary magic. Any club and any member with a good idea can make a positive contribution, locally, nationally, or around the globe. Our club has a tradition of gifting something of little or no value to our Rotary Paul Harris Fellows. The Sawyer children each received a small package of Ghirardelli peppermint chocolate squares. For Chuck, we have Hallmark Valentine cards for he and Kathy to send to their children, and some Hallmark cookie cutters, which might have been purchased at Hallmark's Crown Center in Kansas City, where he worked. Though they're not all present today, please join me in congratulating the Sawyer family.
That was perfect. Thanks, Chuck, for that. Chuck just said, "I'm really sorry about my phone going off. Please set me up for $100." Vicki, you have anything to add to that? Huh? Are you in for 100 as well? So I'll cut you guys both a deal. Send me a photograph of you holding a fish, whether it's in a grocery store, a stuffed fish, and whatever, and we'll apply that to the fishing fund. Okay? How's that? So I just need it. If you don't give me a fish, it's $200. You give me a fish, it's $100. So here we go. History moment. John Wong. What? Stop. What's happening?
We've had 4 history sessions already today. I propose we do this another time.
Okay, what do you guys think? You gonna put him off? Okay. What that tells me is somebody wants to get to the money, right? So I will tell you, I have talked to Chris, and Chris has promised me that these are the winning tickets. Now, he promises me that every week. So these are available for $25 right now if you want to buy them. You can give the money to Chris.
Yeah.
Last chance. Chris?
Last chance.
Are
you selling those? Why would you sell those if I promised you that they're winners?
Okay,
I mean,
I'm going to sit here and watch them.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to shake it up. So Gene here is like my best customer. And he's put the most into the pot consistently over the last 3 months. So I'm going to let him pick the winner today. Pick your card. It's on you, man. It's one of yours, right? He's doing it all fair and everything. He's got a lot of tickets to look at. All right, the number is 856-811. Come on, Gene. Oh, yeah, and look at that. Finally, I'm not a liar. Yeah, there's like $80 there. Now, all right, I'm gonna, as long as we're doing it this way, we'll see if you can pick the king of clubs.
King of clubs. 19 cards.
There's like 20, almost 2,500 in there.
No. Chris, I also understand we have an auction you're going to do real quick.
Yeah, I have 2 men's basketball tickets tomorrow night, premium seats, and a parking pass. $100 first bidder for tomorrow night. Men's basketball team. What are they ranked? 4th in the nation, or something like that. Yeah, 6th in the nation.
I'll take them for 100.
You'll take them for 100.
You know
Anybody
what?
else?
Kim, you want them?
125?
No,
you want them for 100.
Give them to Kim for 100.
Kim for 100. Anybody else? All right, I'll give them to you for $100, Kim. All right, thank you.
So a couple of quick announcements. Can we spool up the fly fishing fund? So this is kind of cool. It's kind of typical this would be on a day that we'd be introducing Candy for her birthday. So everybody, I think, knows that this fine gentleman was her dad, Sam. Also somebody who suffered from an inability to say no, as does his son. Anyway, I think this is really fun. There's a picture of Sam up fishing on Lee's Ferry, just having a great time. And I wanted to throw those other 2 pictures in there because I just thought the one in his cowboy regalia was fun. And look at that handsome picture when he was Father of the Year. I just think that's great. Candy, thank you for playing and for sharing that with us. A couple other things I want to just touch on really quickly. We pull up that shelter box. So I think everybody's probably familiar with Shelter Box, and our club has a long history of supporting this. And last year we kicked in just shy of $2,500 for that, and that's something that we'll be going to the board to here really quickly, asking for them to do that again. So I just want you guys to know that. We also got a really nice letter and a thank you from them, but more details on that. One last announcement before I turn this back to Chris Dodge, who's going to talk about the blood drive. We've been trying to figure out where we're going to take and put our time capsule. We started working on a time capsule early this year and trying to figure out what wall we're going to put in there, and it's been going very well. We've been trying to figure out where we're going to put it. We thought maybe here, we thought maybe there, and I was over on Monday at Hotel Congress visiting with Richard and Shayna and Chad and Todd, and I said, hey, what do you guys do with your centennial? What'd you do with your time capsule? And they took me over and showed me they had just buried it. And I said, would you like some company? And they have agreed to allow us and to take our time capsule and put that at Hotel Congress right next to theirs. My thought was, it's probably not a better landmark downtown to do that. I think that'll always be there. I think it'll be cool to open those things together. And so we'll be bringing that back to you. We're kind of thinking that maybe we would do that in February when Nicole and Vicki kick off this jazz thing, this music thing we're going to be doing down in the Century Room. So more details on that to follow, but I just wanted you to know it looks like we found a good home to bury our capsule downtown. Chris, you want to tell us a little bit about the blood drive?
Yeah, 2/16. That's February 16th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. right here at the Tucson Convention Center, blood drive. My blood is AB positive. I've given a couple gallons over my life. You should too. It's easy. I'm just trying to say it's a good thing. Do it if you can.
Sure.
Vicki.
Cool. All right. I hope everybody can hear me through my mask. Vicki and I are planning our replacement meeting mixer on Wednesday, February 9th, and it'll be at the Centennial Room at Congress, as Mark was mentioning. We'll be one of the very first events groups to be there, so that's exciting. And there is a cap of 75. The room holds 75, so there will be more information about signing up, and it should be a lot of fun. There's going to be a jazz show for us, and a cash bar, I think, as usual, and some food. And Vicki's going to talk about parking.
So we'll get a map of all the different locations. There's like 3 locations where you could park. We're going to try to get something special for parking that night for us. And we'll give the maps to Dorena so that she can pass them out or email them to everyone, so you know, because there's 3 easy locations to park. Thanks.
Thank you. Now we've got Don Rollins, past president as well, who's going to do a blue badge presentation to Abbey. Don.
Thank you, President Mark. Today I have the pleasure of presenting Abbey Nagby with her blue badge. I'd like to begin by thanking Joe Danishevsky for sponsoring Abbey and Wayne Meyer for signing me to be Abbey's mentor. That was my lucky day. When I asked Abbey to tell me a couple things about herself that many of the people here would not know, she told me the following. I am the youngest of a family of 8 girls. I lost my parents at an early age. I am the first generation to move to the USA to pursue my higher education. I started a women's clothes design business at 17 in order to put myself through high school and college. Abbey is an industrious, talented, committed, and friendly person. She has degrees in finance, economics, and human resources. Her Rotary classification is life coach. I encourage all of you to get to know Abbey. Finally, I would use a single word to describe my new friend. In Spanish, the word is olla. In English, jewel. Abbey, I wish you the very best.
Thank you, Don. Thank you all. I have only 1 second, so I take this opportunity to thank first Dorena and Kerry, then my sponsor, Jody, I don't know if he's here today, and Rick Thompson, who helped me 2 months ago, especially the Rollins family. Yeah, I can say that it's not only my mentor, but it's a family member. His wife, Nain, who is my best friend, has been on my side. Yeah, I had surgery 2 months ago, and she was there 4 a.m. in the morning to bring me to the hospital. And she cooked for me, and she was there every week to make sure that I'm well. Also, Sarah, who check on me every single day. And I just moved from Connecticut about a year ago, and Tucson, I feel like home. Yeah, and also all of you who call me, especially my daughter who is here today. Thank you. Thank you, Vicki.
Abbey, welcome. Well, I know we went a little bit over today, but I let you guys out early the last two meetings, so I got a couple of minutes, I think, but I'm not going to be that far over. So first, I just want to say thanks for joining us today, whether you are in person or virtual. We hope you enjoyed the meeting. If you want to donate to the scholarship cups, they're on the table. If you look around, there's some people that have already got that scholarship badge, button on their badge. Thank you for being a sustaining. When you leave, don't forget to return your badges to the board. If you've not got your Rotary pin, you need to see Doreen or Carrie. So I want to say happy birthday to my pal David, Candy, Pat, happy birthday. Congratulations to Chuck on your family recognition. You're amazing. By the way, Chuck was probably one of the best mentors I've ever had. Abbey, congrats on joining us. Anita, welcome to the club. Next week, January 19th, that's when we have Casey Hill coming in with Greater Tucson Leadership. We'll have the 40 under 40 folks here with us. We'll be doing a presentation that O'Reilly's going to do to Kathy Prather at JTED, and we're just going to have an awful lot of fun. The week after that, as you probably know, is our car show update from Joni and Bobby. That's when we're going to find out actually how well we did. Okay, so let's do a quick toast for the adjourn. Here's to those who not just reach, but maintain amazing milestones like centennial celebrations. Hats off to Carlotta and Ray. We're very proud of you. Be safe. I look forward to seeing you next week. We are adjourned.